Why don't you tell me about this piece, how they contacted you, how the sort of thing came together?
Well, I was working with the NAC on another project called Song of the Poets, which was a World War I project about soldiers in the war and their poetry. And the NAC knew I had an interest in writing for students, and they asked me if I would be interested in this piece. So I came to work with Colonel Bly Secondary School, and we talked about the war, we talked about Canada's role in the war, we talked about Canada's music scene before and after the war. And all of this time I was hoping to get something out of them, some interest, some story for them, or an interest in a particular part of Canada's history. And it looked like we would be heading towards somehow telling about the Halifax explosion, and there are a lot of great sounds to do with that. But just right at the end, one student put up his hand and said, "My grandfather was in the war, and his name was Tom. He went to fight, and he got hit in the chest, but the bullet hit his cigarette case, and he lived. And then he was nursed back to health by a woman who became his wife." And so we were all silent, and we knew that was the story we had to tell.
When you come to work with students, talented students, how do you approach that? I mean, this sounds like an educational experience for them, but also for you. So tell me how you approached working with them, how they developed the piece, that sort of thing.
Well, I really rely on them to show me what is great about their instrument, right? I don't play the saxophone, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but they have spent some time experimenting on it, and I encourage them to just treat their instrument in a different way. What if we don't want that pretty sound? What if we're trying to get an ugly sound and trying to tell a story about war, about battle? What interesting things can you do on your instrument that might help to tell that story? And so luckily we had some NAC players come in to help facilitate that as well. And the students were pretty open about it. And especially the percussionists have to be open because they're telling a lot of this story for us. Yeah, I think it's really just opening them up and thinking about, let's try to tell the story and think about what we're doing and that this is communication.
Putting the piece together, how long did it take? How long has it taken?
I had to write the piece very fast. I had to write it in under a month. Yes, and it's about a 7-minute piece for concert bands, so there are a lot of parts in there. But a lot of it was thinking about it and coming up with the concept. So I was working with the students for several weeks before actually starting to write. And it all came together last May and June, and then I saw the students one time before the summer break where they had this new piece on their stands and a brief description of exactly what I was doing, but I haven't seen them since then. Today will be the first time that I'll get to hear the piece from beginning to end and actually have the students understand what they're doing.
That's always pretty exciting for a composer, isn't it? To actually hear it for the first time.
It's exciting. It's a little nerve-wracking too. Yeah, especially with students. I think there's less nerves involved when they're professionals because you expect it to come in at a certain level, and with students there's a lot of working with them about trying to bring them out and give a little more and really try to tell the story as best as possible.